Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching Darcy and Stacey. Let's watch.
My friends introduced to my fiance. It's supposed to be a very positive, funny night. And I'm kind of disappointed from all this. I don't know what I should do better to don't get to this point. Did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? I don't know. But then again, I know I'm going to be my fault, no matter what.
So that's discouraging and not a good sign that he is developing this narrative that no matter what happens, it's always going to be his fault, which we could imagine is a rational conclusion based on the fights that he's had on camera and off camera. We have to imagine they've had more fights, who knows, off camera than on camera. And like I've been saying from the beginning, I've been pulling for this relationship because I think it could work, absolutely. And I care about Darcy and I want her to have a happy life. And I think that it's possible, given what we've seen on the show, that she could have a happy life with Georgie. But she's sabotaging based on her relational traumas. And it's repeatedly happening. And Georgie is now starting to, because in the beginning, he would just roll with it. He would say, well, she has trust issues. It's okay. And I thought, oh, he's really resilient. He's pretty differentiated. He doesn't internalize it. He doesn't take responsibility for her issues. He is helpful. He kind of has like a non-reactive demeanor that is helpful to Darcy's reactivity. And I was hoping that things would work out, but it seems like it's taking a toll on him, which could reduce his patience, which could cause him to break up with her, which could cause him to get more defensive and more hostile, which we've already seen in the last episode when they were with the friends. He was getting a lot more escalated. And Darcy, I don't know if I showed this clip, but Darcy said she saw a side of him that she's never seen before. And I wonder if he's reaching his limit, which doesn't bode well.
I just didn't feel right being there in that moment. I just didn't really feel loved by you and respected, and I just felt like I needed to just own my own self-worth, and left with Stacey and wanted to go home.
So there's that narrative again. Now, if she were to say something, the beginning of what she said, I think could have been healthy or helpful to their relationship, helpful to reducing conflict, helpful to understanding. She's saying, I felt unloved. I was stressed out. You know, it's kind of owning your feelings. And if you learn one thing from me, it's this. Yes, absolutely express how you feel, and particularly in moments like this to your partner. But always insert tentativeness. Always come from a tentative place, because there's a good chance that at least part, if not all, of your reactivity is not really rational. We all understand that we are irrational creatures, and we need to state it as such. Otherwise, we are unfairly accusing someone of something, potentially. And so we want to say something like, I felt unloved, I felt disrespected, I felt uncared for. But I don't know, maybe it's because I was drunk or triggered or insecure, or I don't know, maybe it was me, maybe it was you. I don't know. Just insert that instead of the way she said it, which, of course, you see the body language for Georgie of like, oh, what? I'm being accused of something, like I disrespected you? You disrespected me. And so that's one thing. The other thing we're hearing is that narrative again, where she is saying, I deserve better. I'm not going to be treated this way. And with Jesse, you could say, well, okay, I could understand that. With Tom, I was a little bit more dubious around that claim. Obviously, Tom cheated on her, and that's not okay. My suspicion, though, if I remember right, was that with Tom, they were into each other in the beginning, and then things got rocky, and then he just didn't know how to wrap up their relationship, and there was this ambiguous zone, and he cheated on her. It's not okay that he did that, but I think that in his head he was halfway broken up with her, but just didn't have the differentiation to really acknowledge that and assert that in his life. I don't know that for sure, obviously, but that was my impression. And I think he also, during that time, still really had feelings for her, as evidenced by the time he goes to the house, gives her that note anyway. So with Tom, it's a little bit more questioning of this narrative of I deserve better. I'm better than this. In order for me to have any kind of self-respect, I need to reject you. I need to tell you what you did was wrong, and I deserve better. And unless you change, I'm not going to be with you anymore. And with Georgie, it is, I think, illuminated in a way that clearly indicates distortion and traumas. Now, I don't know because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But if the show is any representation of their relationship, then I would imagine that a valid conceptualization is that she has this distortion and these traumas that she is superimposing on the relationship. Sometimes people call this projection. It's not technically projection. It's actually displacement or transference or something. But she is displacing something from the past where she genuinely was disrespected, maybe even Jesse, but I'm guessing it goes way farther back than that. And it's self-righteousness, which on one hand you would want to support, for someone to say, look, I deserve better and I'm not going to take this anymore. And if you're going to treat me this way, then I'm going to draw my line in the sand. Absolutely. But when you see things that aren't there and you draw a line in the sand, you're just self-sabotaging.
I just don't want to talk about it right now. I'm tired,
No love and respect. What I do to make you feel no love and respect?
I just honestly feel like I want to go to sleep right now.
And Georgie has a good question, and he's being calm, which is good. Just contrast this with Jesse, which, oh boy, and with Tom. I'm just imagining Tom getting hostile in this situation, not as much as Jesse, but with Georgie, again, indicating that he is a good catch. He says, what did I do to make you feel that I didn't love you or that I disrespected you? Now, if he was more differentiated or had the resources, he could be a little bit more loving in that situation. I don't fault him for that. It's been a rough night. And I don't think Darcy has an answer to that. So I don't want to talk about it right now. And so this is differentiation. I'll repeat it. So a component, and there are many components, it's a complicated concept, but a component I have to talk about on this show is the ability to differentiate between your initial emotional reactivity and your thinking and your ability to evaluate life and your emotions. It's more complicated than that, and there's a lot of nuances, and this is my take on it, by the way, but the ability to differentiate between those two things and the ability to say, if you're Darcy, I feel like he doesn't love me. I feel disrespected. I feel like I can't trust him because of lack of information. That's what I'm attaching it to, but I often feel this way with men, particularly the closer I get to them. And I have a lot of reasons to be overly distrustful, and I know I have trust issues. So maybe, and this is the thinking, rational, reasoning side of your personality, you can look at those emotions and say, is that rational? I don't know. Now, you don't have to say irrational. You could just say, question mark. And that's always what I'm hoping for in the initial stages with clients is, and I'll even say that, I'll say, let's just introduce a question mark there. I'm not saying there's an answer because I don't know. Only you know the answer to this question. But let's just introduce a question mark. You seem very sure of your feelings, indicating something is dangerous. But let's add a question mark. Maybe you're right, but maybe you're distorted because of the past. And most people are distorted in relationships when they're in conflict. So let's just introduce a question mark there. And that question mark is that reasoning side going, is that rational? It's just the beginning stages. And so with fusion and with undifferentiation, your feelings are taken at face value and are believed, and there's just no questioning. It's like, I feel like he doesn't love me, I feel disrespected, and I am being disrespected. There's just no doubt about it.
I just want to know if he is who he says he is, and if he truly loved her. Like, I'm not trying to compare the relationships between, ours and theirs, but I just feel like there's something she might know that might help me.
Okay. And that's rational. That's okay. I think, particularly if you are having some questions or having some trust issues, then reaching out to someone's ex could help. It also could backfire, because if you talk, I think it's a flip of the coin. If you talk to an ex, there's there's no guarantee that the ex is not distorted as well. So I think it's a flip of the coin. The ex could say something like, well, yeah, he's an overall good guy, but we had some issues and it was this and this. In fact, I don't think it's a flip of the coin. I think it's less than a flip of the coin that a differentiated ex would say something, particularly because it's kind of recent. Or anyway, point is I guess now that I think about it, unless the breakup was amicable, which I wonder what the percentage of that is. I'm guessing there's research on that, but anecdotally, I would say, for the average American, I would say that the rate of amicable, and how do we define amicable? I guess I would operationalize it as or I would define it currently in this discussion as the ability for a current partner to reach out to the ex and for the ex to say something like, well, yeah, they're a good person. We had our issues and I had my complaints, but it was a two-way street, and we just drifted apart, and our conflicts, we're just incompatible in some ways. But I think that my ex will be fine with someone else that just fits better with them or whatever. And I still hang out. I still talk with that person. We still, hang out or chat or text, or we like each other still. We're friends. So that would be amicable. I would say on average, when you really think about all the relationships that everyone has ever been in, is that less than half? I imagine it is. Maybe 25%, maybe a lot less. I don't know. Anyway, so for Darcy, she's, if I'm right about this rate, then the chances are she is going to meet an ex who has a lot of difficulty and maybe some differentiation regarding her past relationship with Georgie, and will give a distorted view, which is not going to help Darcy. But I don't know, maybe it will.
I've got my daughters to protect. I just need to know if there's something that he's hiding, and maybe she's the only person that can give me those answers.
Another narrative that is interesting, and again, I don't know, Darcy knows him way better than I do, but from what we've seen on the show, I don't think there's a threat. And then that statement, she says, I owe this to my daughters. What does that mean? Like, with Jesse, you could say, yeah, you definitely owe your daughters a better family life because of what's happening with Jesse. You can kind of make the argument with Tom, and now that I'm remembering, there were times when Tom would just completely lay into her for no reason. I remember that. So you can make, but with Georgie, what are you protecting them from? I don't see anything that Georgie is doing that is a threat to her children. It elucidates the distortion, at least from my perspective, that she has. Again, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Only Darcy and Georgie know. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.